Welcome to Ike's Flame. Join us on another Star Wars adventure. Punch it, Chewie. Welcome to our first episode of Ike's Flame, and thank you for joining us. It's April 5th, and we are going to get started, and I'm excited to start to share this journey with you guys about what we're doing here with Ike's Flame, the content we're going to put out, and if you guys are coming across this, what our goal, our main thing we're looking at doing is Star Wars content. So we're going to do deep dives into different Star Wars content, exploring different areas of the Star Wars universe. So we're going to look at different eras of Star Wars, from Old Republic, High Republic, Galactic Republic, Empire, to New Republic, First Order, those sorts of things. So anywhere in the gamut, we'll look at Legends stuff from time to time, so things that are outside of the Star Wars canon, and the realized Star Wars canon that Disney is putting together currently, and so we're going to span the spectrum, go all over the place. And so to start off, to kind of explain what we're going to start off doing here in the next few months, and this is probably the first year really will be mainly what we're doing, is we're going to do deep dives into different characters. So each week we'll be looking at probably 1 to 3 characters, most of the time 1 or 2, and just digging into their story, seeing what they did, learning more about what they did, and along with that, I also hope to, I know some of you guys listening are probably really deep into Star Wars, but if you're also not, to hopefully give you guys some suggestions to where to find more about these characters, watch or read more, and things of that nature. So as we dive in today, and we're going to have a theme for each month, so for where we'll find these characters. So for April here, our theme is the Rise of the Empire. So characters that we find in the Rise of the Empire that have a significant role and that sort of thing. And the other thing is we're also going to look at many different characters. So it won't just be, and I kind of mentioned this before, it won't just be like the main character. So we're not just looking at, we might have times where we look at the Luke Skywalkers, but we're going to be looking at characters from all over the Star Wars universe. So with that said, let's get rolling into what specifically we're going to talk about today. And today I'm excited to talk about we have 2 characters today, and they are going to span their story. Really starts at the Rise of the Empire, and goes into the rebellion and beyond. So that's where we're going to be at today. So our first character for today that we're going to dive into is Hera Syndulla. So a little bit about Hera Syndulla, just a little background, kind of just information for you guys. Hera Syndulla is a Twi'lek female, and she is her homeworld is Ryloth, and she was born 29 years before the Battle of Yavin. And so Hera becomes the main thing that we know Hera for, and you guys probably have heard of Hera and things of that nature, is leader of the Phoenix Squadron, plays a crucial role in the rebellion and that sort of thing. So that is Hera. That's our first character we're going to talk about today and dive more into. And you guys may guess, but we're also going to look at her counterpart today. And her counterpart, I would say, most people would say, is Kannan Jarrus, which is who we're going to look at. So Kannan Jarrus as well, he is a Jedi. He has a very interesting story through Order 66 and kind of how he gets involved in the rebellion, and he is a part of Phoenix Squadron, which Hera is the leader of, and they work together very closely and become very close, not just in rebelling against the Empire, but in their relationship with each other as well, which we'll talk about more later. And so that's the 2 characters we're looking at today. So a Jedi, a rebel leader, and that work together. And I'm assuming you guys are potentially somewhat familiar with both of these. So to start off with, and Kannan, to give a little background on Kannan. Kannan is a human male, and he is from Coruscant. I believe that is his actual homeworld. I do not know if that is just being said also because he's a Jedi. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure he's from Coruscant. He definitely grew up on Coruscant because he was a Jedi pre-Order 66. He was a Padawan, and so so just with that said, we are so that's kind of Kanan's a little bit of background for him. So let's dive into let's start with Hera, go from there, and we'll dive a little more into Hera, then we'll dive into Kannan, and we'll have a lot of overlaps as we go, and especially towards the end we'll dive into how they are connected, what their relationship, how that plays out, and that sort of thing. So Kannan Jarrus, or not Kannan, Hera Syndulla, as we mentioned, she's from Ryloth, and she is a Twi'lek, and so he becomes a leader in the rebellion, and becomes leader of Phoenix Squadron, and but the first place we really see Hera is in A New Dawn. It's a book that kind of explores the how Hera and Kannan meet. It explores a little bit of the aftermath of Order 66, what Kanan's doing, and also what Hera is doing in that time frame. And so that's really the first place we see Hera in detail, and really get to know who she is as a character, and her heart to push back against the Empire, to fight for freedom, and that sort of thing. And so, but with that, we do see her one spot that I know of for sure prior to this. And so Bad Batch Season 1 came out last summer, and we get, I think she's in 2 episodes of Bad Batch Season 1, where the Bad Batch squad goes to Ryloth on a special mission right after Order 66 to help. I think they're helping deliver weapons, if I remember right, to Ryloth to fight back against the Empire, as the Empire's starting to invade Ryloth. And so we get to see, at this point we see Hera, she makes friends, she kind of becomes friends with Omega and Bad Batch, and from that point on we have this they have a little bit of a relationship. And this is the only spot where we really see Hera as a child or a kid. I'm not sure how. I guess Hera's like maybe 12 or something. I'm not 100% sure. Around that age, roughly, in the Bad Batch Season 1. And so this is where we really see her. We see her as a kid. We see her on Ryloth with her family, with her dad. And to give a little background, her dad was... I think they call them Ryloth freedom fighters, a freedom fighter. Her dad helped lead that in the Clone Wars when the Separatists were trying to take over Ryloth, and we see some of that take place in the Clone Wars and what that looks like. I do not believe we actually ever see Hera specifically in the Clone Wars, but we see her father in that role. And so that's the first place we see Hera. We see Hera then in A New Dawn, and moving forward to really start what becomes Hera's passion for freedom, passion to fight to against the Empire, to become a rebel in a sense, and so initially, as A New Dawn happens, and there's a whole mining accident in A New Dawn, and that's kind of how Kannan and Hera meet. And by the end of the book, Hera has pretty much convinced Kannan to say, "Hey, come join me. Let's fight against the Empire," and it moves on from there. And so, but in the midst of this, we start to see after A New Dawn. Next place we see Hera specifically and kind of in depth is in Rebels, Star Wars Rebels TV show, animated TV show, and She becomes the leader of the Phoenix Squadron. Get my words mixed up here, but the leader of the Phoenix Squadron, which consists of Kannan, and it consists of Sabine Wren, Zeb, Aurelis, and I didn't say Zeb names right. Gara Zeb Aurelis, or also known as Zeb, and Hera's droid Chopper, and then at the very beginning of Rebels, we see them pick up Ezra and start this relationship with Ezra Bridger, who we'll get into a little bit later. And so Hera leads the squad that first they're kind of fighting on their own. They're specifically fighting against and fighting back on the planet of Lothal, which the importance of that planet is Ezra Bridger's homeworld. And so they fight back on Lothal for the most part. They do some other missions and things like that, but they're really kind of on their own to start with. And then as they continue to do this, they gain some notice, and specifically who they gain notice from is Bail Organa, Senator Bail Organa, and at that point they start to get involved in the wide-scale rebellion and helping out and doing what they can there and becoming a little bit more organized in the rebellion, and eventually they become part of the larger rebellion, and they specifically are known as the Phoenix Squadron. And so and Hera is the leader of Phoenix Squadron, and so they end up working with Mon Mothma and all the others, and at different points in Rebels we see them at the Rebel base on Yavin 4 and some of the other Rebel bases that they had established as well. And so that's what we know, and that's kind of how we the basic storyline of Hera, and through all this we see Hera is very compassionate, very bold as well, to stand up to the Empire, willing to take chances, willing to risk her life, and all of those sorts of things. And so we get to really see Hera lead this group, how this group, specifically the Phoenix Squadron, forms, and how they continue to rebel, and how Hera's relationship with all the Phoenix Squadron, between Kannan, Sabine, Zeb, and Ezra and Chopper, how all their relationships form and things like that. And so that's really where we last see Hera, is at the end of the last episode of Star Wars Rebels. And the next place we may potentially see her, and we don't know for sure, is in Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker, if you guys remember, towards the end of Rise of Skywalker, Lando and Chewie, they go to all the other places in the galaxy to recruit just help from normal people and to help fight the Final Order on Exegol. And when they show up, we do get a glimpse of Hera's famous ship, the Ghost. And so we don't, at this point, for all we know, Hera's still alive. Hera's still probably more than against the Empire or the Final Order and that sort of nature. So at this point, there's definitely a high chance that was actually Hera piloting the Ghost. And so we don't know for sure, and we don't know if there's anyone else from the Phoenix Squad with her. We just see the Ghost, the Phoenix Squad ship, Hera's ship, that is really well known from the Star Wars Rebels show. And so that's kind of where we start. We start seeing Hera in Bad Batch, a new Dawn, and then on from there we see her in Star Wars Rebels, and so that's the way the midst of most of her story so far takes place. And so as we go, we're going to flip over to Kannan here, and Kannan has a very similar time track, and I'm guessing this is very intentional where we see Kannan and how they did this. Like I mentioned, Kanan's in A New Dawn, and we see him there and see how Kannan and Hera's relationship grows, and they become friends and go from there. And so And as he joins the larger rebellion as a Wisp, a part of the Phoenix Squadron, and that sort of thing. And so the other place we see Kanan, like Hera, we see Kanan in Bad Batch Season 1. And I think it's the first episode, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's the second episode. I think it's the first episode we see Kanan. And at this point, Kanan is a Padawan. Kanan is Kanan's a Padawan. Kanan is a Jedi. He's learning, and at this time, Kanan's name is Caleb Doom, and he is, at that time, he's Padawan Caleb Doom. His master is Deepa Bilaba. I struggle saying that word. And I was actually reading. What was I reading? I think is it Queen Shadow? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Queen Shadow. About Padme Amidala. Depa Bilaba is one of the Jedis that we see. Actually, one of the only Jedis we really see mention of that. But side note, I was reading yesterday and I was like, I think that's Kanan's master, and it is, as I was looking today. And so Kanan, or Caleb at the time, he in Bad Batch Season 1, we see Kanan watch his master sacrifice herself. So we watch Master Depa Bilaba sacrifice herself and is killed by the clone to save Caleb Doom. At the time, Caleb takes off running. He runs away, and then actually the Bad Batch crew tracks him down, chases him. So Hunter and I think mainly it's Hunter and I'm drawing a blank. Cross-Eye. Hunter and Cross-Eye are chasing him. Cross-Eye at this time wants to kill him still because he's a Jedi, but Hunter lets him go, and Caleb Doom gets away. And so the next place we see Caleb Doom, and at that point, Caleb Doom, Kannan Jarrus, is probably, I'd say, a teenager, and he goes and goes to a mining world, which then is where we see Caleb in A New Dawn, where he eventually meets Hera. And at this point, Caleb Doom, Kannan Jarrus, we'll call him Kanan from now on. Kanan has a very interesting storyline, because he survived Order 66. He has this really bad taste in his mouth of Empire, but he also knows that it's really dangerous to be a Jedi, even a Padawan, at this time. And so he has no master, he has no guidance, he's kind of making it on his own. Most of the rest of the Jedi have been killed by Order 66 at this point, and so Kanan actually kind of hides that he's a Jedi. He gets rid of his lightsaber, at least it's not a very, he gets rid of his lightsaber in the sense of, I can't remember exactly. Here it says he forsook the Jedi ways, and then he swapped his lightsaber in for a blaster. So yes, he did get rid of his lightsaber. And then even once we see him in Star Wars Rebel, when he reveals to the Empire that he is a Jedi, we see that he has his lightsaber in two different parts and has to put them together before he can use them. He carries both parts on his belt, but he has to put them together before using them. So he really is hiding his identity, and that's what he is doing in most of A New Dawn. He uses some Force abilities, starts to rediscover that towards the end of A New Dawn, and as he does this, he's really working through his, like, what do I do? So I've been betrayed by the clones who I fought with in the Clone Wars. The Empire is taking over, which seems evil, but I just want to survive, and I'm a Jedi, and they don't like me. So he has a lot of mixed emotions, and as we get into the end of A New Dawn and also into Rebels, we see that Kanan agrees to go with Hera and to really start this Phoenix Squadron and a rebel cell and to fight against the Empire. But there's many times he's reluctant, and he is not sure about it. He has a hesitation. There's a little bit of, I think, fear in there. I think there's a little bit of like, we just need to survive. And that, and you gotta think, he was close to being killed, during Order 66. And so we have this whole Kanan struggling with this, and he really works through this, and we see this arc all the way through Rebels, and this clearly comes to a finality when I'm calling him Kanan, I'll say Kanan, I'll do my best here. Kanan gets to the end of his story, and so, but before we get there, I mentioned we come back to Ezra Bridger, and so, part of Kanan's journey and Kanan's growth as well is he becomes a master. So Ezra Bridger, who they find on Lothal, and where they fight a lot against the Empire, is they find Ezra at the very beginning of Star Wars Rebels, and Ezra is a Force-sensitive boy, and Kanan and Hera, combine them. Kanan and Hera have a much discussion about and kind of conflict of whether or not Kanan should try to train Ezra. And so Kanan's reluctant, but he does end up trying to train Ezra. He struggles with training Ezra. There's a lot of going back and forth. Ezra gets frustrated at different times, and we see this throughout Rebels. And so, with that said, as Kanan grows into this, he grows into this master position, and you gotta think as well, like, Kanan wasn't a Jedi Knight when Order 66 happened. He still has a lot to learn himself, so for him, it may seem like a jump to train someone, to train a Padawan, and so it's hard. And you also gotta think he put away the Force, cut himself off to it for a while, as he was trying to hide, and as he changed his name to become Kannan Jarrus to get away from the Empire. And so he has all these things that kind of going on as he's trying to train Ezra that make it hard. It's not just that Ezra is not at the temple on Coruscant, and they're in the middle of a rebellion, but Kanan has all these other past as a Jedi, and that he is dealing with in the middle of all this as well. And so we see this in a few different ways, with him training Ezra, and it eventually comes out well, and Ezra becomes a good Jedi, and from there on, we also see Kanan, and as I mentioned, he's kind of reluctant with this whole rebellion thing. He does it, but he is reluctant. And so, with that said, he moves to, especially when the Phoenix Squadron starts to join the larger rebellion, Kanan is resistant to that. He's like, why can't we just do our own thing, call our own shots, and those sort of thing. And so he has some story arc in there kind of developing, like, is this rebellion worth it? Do I dive into this? And he finally does, but it takes him a little while, and he's reluctant at first. And in another area, I want to pull two other things I want to pull out Kanan here before we jump into what Kanan and Hera look like together, and their relationship a little more, and that sort of thing. Is one, there's 2 points within Star Wars Rebels I think that are big that show a defining factor, change how Kanan thinks a little bit. And the first is, and I'm not sure what season this is, but they meet up with, they get a guy, I think they get a lead from Fulcrum, which at the time is Ahsoka Tano, helping out with the rebellion, and they go and find a couple clones. They find some of the 501st clones on kind of a remote world, and he is very reluctant to work with them. And so as this plays out, which is understandable, and as it plays out, they want to work with them. With being in the 501st, they had Anakin as their leader. They worked with Ahsoka Tano. They tell him that Ahsoka Tano sent them. They're like, yes, with any friend of Ahsoka Tano's is a friend of ours, and that sort of thing. And so Kanan starts to realize that there's good, that not everyone is out to get him. There's people that want to fight for the betterment of the galaxy and fight against the Empire. And I think this is a little bit as well, just him getting over the fact that the clones turned on him as well as a Padawan and killed his master. And so the other thing I want to point out, the Inquisitors, Jedi, Lord Vader's Inquisitors, who are Force sensitive, dark side Force sensitive beings. That they're not Sith technically, I don't think, but they are sent out by Lord Vader to hunt down the Jedi, any remaining Jedi after Order 66, and to destroy them. And so the Kannan Jarrus is, I believe he's in a temple. I don't know where he's at exactly, but what planet he's on. But in this temple, Kannan Jarrus, he gets in a fight with the Grand Inquisitor, and he finds out that the Grand Inquisitor was actually a Jedi before Order 66 and became an Inquisitor for Lord Vader. And at this time, Kanan has a vision and is technically knighted to become a Jedi Knight by the Grand Inquisitor in this vision. And I think that starts to really reaffirm that Kanan is the Jedi, is the person he's supposed to be, and he's doing what he is meant to do. And this is fully played out in the end when the last episode we see Kanan in Star Wars Rebels. It's called Jedi Knight, and this is when Kanan sacrifices himself on Lothal to save the rest of Phoenix Squadron. And so Kanan ultimately gives the ultimate sacrifice. He uses his Force abilities, uses the abilities he has as a Jedi to save the others. And so Kanan ultimately gives himself fully to the cause of this, and it's honored because Hera and Ezra and the rest of Phoenix Squadron, they fight and they end up winning the freedom of Lothal, and that sort of thing. And so that's Kanan's kind of end of the story and that sort of thing. And so as we look at Kanan and Hera's relationship together, who they are together, who they are, their relationship, as I mentioned, it starts in A New Dawn. We see it throughout, and Kanan and Hera, they end up having a romantic relationship, and we see this a little bit throughout Star Wars Rebels. It's also hidden kind of on the side, just because they're in the middle of a fight with the Empire and that sort of thing. And so, with that said, we see this play out in Kanan, and I think that is part of the reason Kanan decides to join Hera to become part of the Phoenix Squadron, is because not just because he wants to fight back against the Empire, but because he wants to also just continue his relationship and friendship with Hera at the time, which ends up becoming a romantic relationship as well. But with that said, so that's how them together, and they lead Phoenix Squadron. They rebel. They help lead the rebellion, specifically on Lothal and other places, and they fight back against the Empire. And we see in the final episode of Star Wars Rebels that they end up having a child together, and so Hera Syndulla is his name, and I'll go back to what we talked about earlier in The Rise of Skywalker, who was on the Ghost at the time. That could have been Hera Syndulla. It could have been Jason and Hera. Hard to know, but that's kind of what we know. It's never explicitly said that Kanan's a father, but you kind of assume it at that point. But yeah, so the other thing, as I mentioned, with Kanan, the only place that we see Kanan after Star Wars Rebels, from my knowledge, is in The Rise of Skywalker. So if you guys remember the scene where Rey is taking on Sith Eternal Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine, and is taking him on, and she is knocked to the ground, and we had this moment where she's looking up into space, into and we get taken up into like the stars, and we start to hear these voices. Kanan, I don't know specifically what Kanan's quote is, but he is one of the voices that speak to Rey in that moment. And so that is the other area, one other area that we see Kanan and what that looks like. And so, and where he is in that. And so yeah, this is kind of the story of Kanan and Hera and where they're at, how their stories connect, what they do together, them leading Phoenix Squadron, them becoming a part of the rebellion in that sense, and everything that they do there. And so, a couple other things is, just for fun, is that Kanan and Ezra, they also have encounters with Maul. They have encountered with Lord Vader and that sort of thing as well. And so another big growing point for Kanan that I should mention as well is that in his fight with I think Maul, or one of the Inquisitors, he is blinded. He is hit across his eyes with a lightsaber. He becomes blind, and from then on out, for the rest of his life, he functions off the Force and being able to see through the Force and not through with his own eyes. So that is another kind of a big growth moment we see for Kanan as he is on this journey. One thing I will say about like Kanan and Ezra, they're not great Jedi, but they are good Jedi. They're not like the most powerful Jedi, the most wise Jedi, but they have great hearts. They really go after it. They really put themselves into the rebellion and doing what is good, and that sort of thing. And so we see them, and also the main antagonist, or antagonist that Hera and Kanan and the Phoenix Squadron fight on Lothal is, we see Grand Admiral Thrawn, and which Thrawn has an awesome story, has so much in depth there, but that is their main antagonist on Lothal as they are fighting against the Empire, and who they mainly deal with. And so yeah, so I want to mention that. And then the last segment here before we kind of close out for the day that I want to mention is, and kind of this is more speculation, and I want to speculate, where could we see Kanan and Hera again? So there's a lot of new shows coming out, new shows specifically on Disney Plus coming out, and things of that nature. And so, where could we see Kanan and Hera again? So first off with Hera, I think there's a couple places we could potentially see Hera. One is we have some of these we may see both Kanan and Hera, and this is one where I think we could see both. Is we have Andor coming up with Cassian Andor and his time in the rebellion prior to that. And the reason I think of that, and this is another where Star Wars at another time alludes to, Hera is in Rogue One, in the movie Rogue One, when they are on the Rebel base, we don't see Hera, but we hear over the intercom system on the Rebel base they are calling for General Syndulla, referring to Hera Syndulla, and so we have that reference to Hera, and so I think there's a chance we could potentially see them in Andor with Cassian. I don't know for sure. That is just an area I think we could potentially see them specifically dealing with the rebellion. Another area I think we could see potentially, and this may be more Kanan than Hera, but is potentially in Kenobi, the Kenobi series as well. And I don't know. So during Rebels, they have, like I said, they have some interactions with Darth Vader, with specifically Kanan and Ezra have interactions with Darth Vader, the Inquisitors, and also Darth Vader, Inquisitors, Maul, and that sort of thing. And they also have interactions with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so, and I'm assuming we may see Maul. I know there's definitely the thought, I don't know if we'll see Maul and Kenobi or not, but there's definitely a thought that we will see Vader, Lord Vader. Hayden Christensen has come back to play Lord Vader in the Kenobi series, and so I think that's definitely a possibility to maybe see Kanan. I see more Kanan and Kenobi, but that's a possibility. And the other spot that I'm really excited for, I can't wait to see what they do, is the Ahsoka show. So Ahsoka Tano, who plays Fulcrum in Star Wars Rebels and has a big role there and is very connected with Phoenix Squadron. So at the end of Star Wars Rebels, Ezra and Thrawn are taken away and they have to go found. Sabine, it's believed that Sabine and Ahsoka Tano are going to look for them, and we see in season 2 of The Mandalorian that when we first find Ahsoka Tano and The Mandalorian meets Ahsoka Tano, that she is looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Probably also at the same time looking for Ezra, and that sort of thing. So I think there's a good chance we could see, I'm guessing at that point, more see Kanan in that show, because that would not Kanan, see Hera in that show, because at that point Kanan would have already died. And so, but I really think there's a chance we could see Hera, see the Ghost, maybe see more Phoenix Squadron, which would be a lot of fun. I would definitely think we'd see Sabine and Ezra, but I think there's a chance to see Hera in that as well, and maybe even Jason Syndulla, which would be a lot of fun as well. Kind of see, we just get a very short glimpse of him as a young boy in the last episode of Star Wars Rebels, so it kind of be fun to see where he's at now, what him and his mom are doing. So, I think that's just some speculation where we could see potentially these two characters in the future and upcoming shows and Star Wars content and that sort of thing. So I'm excited about that. I think it'll be a lot of fun to see if they do pop up anywhere, and even if there's just any cameos or flashbacks or things like that, because I think that could be a possibility as well. But with that said, so today we covered Kannan Jarrus, Hera Syndulla, talked a lot about the Phoenix Squadron, how they led Phoenix Squadron in rebelling against the Empire, against Lothal, and they have super great story arc. I would encourage you guys to watch Rebels if you haven't. I would encourage you to read A New Dawn if you haven't either, and kind of get a fuller picture of their story and fill in the gaps for more than what I have time for. And so, with that said, there are two great story arcs, two great Star Wars characters that come together to fight against the Empire, which is a lot of fun. And so, check that out more. And as we close today, you guys can find me, Ike's Flame, on. Actually, before we get to that, I'm going to give you a hint for next week, or a teaser. Next week, we are going to be talking about another Rebel who has a significant impact in the destruction of the first Death Star. So come back for that next week, and I am excited to talk about that. It'll be a lot of fun, so there's a hint for what we're talking about next week, but we'll get there. But as we close today, you guys can find me on Instagram at Ike's Flame, as well as on YouTube at Ike's Flame as well. And thanks for joining us today. This is Ike here, and I'm super excited to start this adventure with you guys through the Star Wars universe. And so at Ike's Flame, as we always say, light the fire. Have a great week, guys.